but um,
You don't want to drive in Manhattan.
no. I
Do
just
you
take
live
the
in do you
bus.
live in the city as well?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, I'm throwing you off your game a little bit. This is what happens in business. Sometimes we look to throw the individual off their game. So go ahead.
no,
Back
it's
to your
fine. It's
question.
okay.
Back to your questions.
I was going to ask you about, you mentioned an interview,
Hmm.
and I mean an internship.
Hmm.
Um, so could you talk a little bit about that, like your early opportunities in
Hmm.
finance?
Hmm. Yeah, so I was a sophomore in college and I got an internship at Goldman Sachs, um, which I'm sure you both know what Goldman Sachs is. Yeah. And so, this is a prestigious investment bank. It was a privately held partnership. And I worked there in the summer of '87. And apparently I did a really good job. And they offered me to continue on with my working there as was heading back to school. And I chose to do that. And so I had to move back home because I had gone to a small school in upstate New York, um, and obviously could not do that anymore. And so I moved back home and worked part time for them for a couple of years, graduated school, and then they offered me a permanent job when I graduated college. So, um, that was something that was uh, an opportunity that presented itself for me, and I was able to capitalize on that opportunity because I guess I worked hard and I showed a lot of interest, and helped me. It was kind of, I tell graduates, as I have done a lot of recruitment for the organizations that I work for. I've told that story many a times, and the point I just try to make with students like yourselves is, um, if you show interest and you show a desire to learn, right? Um, you can go really far, and certainly, at the beginning of your career, because as much as you want to believe that, to get the job, you have to be the smartest individual, and you'll probably see this as you both explore university and selecting universities. It's not just about your grades. I mean, grades are important, but it's that whole balance of interpersonal skills, ability to collaborate and make friendships that I think counselors look at. They look for in the whole package, and so I think coming back to your question, I think that's what helped me was that people saw in me that I had this complete package, that it was not just about me wanting um, uh, to learn and be passionate about, but also being personable, being friendly, being collaborative, being somebody that fit into the system, if you will. And that's what led to my early success. And then I was able to capitalize that and grow my network over time to the point where, as I'm sure you see on my LinkedIn, I've got quite a number of people that I've become very friendly with. And these are people that I've worked with or I've just met along this 36-year journey.
I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned how, um, sorry, blanking out of it. I think you mentioned how like the it's not just about the grades, but it's also about, I guess, the personal skill set you have, and that's absolutely true. Especially that is something we can apply now to, um, I guess, applying for colleges and things like that. Um, I our next question is how would you recommend young people interested in finance to get into into the industry?
Yeah, so I'd say a couple of things, right? I think both of you, um, Ria, I'm assuming, are you in a private school as well? Is Homestead, I think you said Homestead, right? Is that a private school? But it doesn't really matter whether it is or it is. I was just more curious. But I would imagine that both of you have guidance counselors and you have um, um, student development centers in your schools.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I would use those individuals as well as you. I'll call you kids. Hopefully that's not offensive, but I think you kids have an ability. Um, a network, right? That you can tap into, right? There's so many social, professional social networks out there like LinkedIn, and I'm sure there's other ones, but an old man like me only knows LinkedIn, and I think you can use that as leverage to find out what you might be interested in, right? I'm sure in school, just as with my kids, you've got teachers and you've got guidance counselors who spend quite a bit of time with you, probably maybe more time than your guardians or parents, because you're at school 7, 8 hours a day, right? So they get to know you and they may guide you into certain areas where they may think you have a skill set or an expertise. And so I would say a couple things: use your network, right? Be exploratory, right? So don't say no, I don't want to do math, or explore it, right? Give it a try. I think that I know me personally, when I'm looking at candidates to hire, I look at kind of what have they done before, right? In our business, we talk about one trick ponies. Are they just, one thing, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's just, what is the organization looking for? And I think when individuals have diverse backgrounds, right, and they've tried a lot of things, um, those are individuals that I will probably lean more towards in my selection, because I know that nothing stays the same, right? And if individuals are willing to challenge themselves and try different things, those are the types of individuals I want as part of my organization. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about everything you mentioned about our resources and what we should use. I think my parents basically say the same thing. Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. I was going to ask you, I think you mentioned this a little bit, but what has changed about finance and what do you think is the future of finance?
Um, hmm, what has changed about it? I guess